How low you go is going to depend on how soft your soil is. If you got some softer ground, you can compress it and go farther down if you want. This ground's pretty tough, so we don't need to go that far. Now we got this nice trail right here. Once again, guys, we're sitting right square in the middle of a trail. I'm going to take that and walk that trap right down in. Solid. It's a little looser ground than I thought, so we'll compress it and go a little higher so I can get it down in there farther. That trap's not going anywhere. Rat stretchers, guys. How many have you seen out here in the vendors for sale for $1? They're everywhere. And a lot of guys have these sitting in the corner collecting dust. I know I did when I first figured this out. Just something I've kind of come up with. And you ain't even seen my favorite part about these things yet. My favorite part, so we all like that real grassy trail, correct? That nice trail winding down, that's where we're funneled down into. Anyone that's able to use 220s, we want them funneled. You want them tight. You want them to be enclosed. Keep that trail looking as natural as we can. We take these safeties off. We take some grass, which generally is already growing through here, guys. So let's just, you can kind of pretend this grass a little longer. It's quite set for the dry land trapping, but we're going to take that, we're going to put it right through the springs on both sides. Now, how many people have problems with raccoons climbing over those 220s? Fairly common, right? We all have it. We all miss stuff. We all miss for nobody's catching everything that comes through. The best part about this stabilizing system, take grass, run it right through the top of that rat stretcher. That raccoon's not going over the top, guys. Very, very seldom will that raccoon go over the top. And this is, most of the time I don't even have to import grass. This is just natural grass that's growing. You find that raccoon trail, I can run up, stake this in, take the natural growing grass, hold under, and I'm out of there. It is that simple. There's not a lot of stabilizing systems that I've seen that can offer something over the top. You know, we've all put sticks over the top and angled them and stuff, and that works too, and there's nothing wrong with it. But this has just a natural ability to force them down. We want them to force their head down. Now that trap, we want that trap pretty much 90 degrees to the ground. You know, we're kind of on top of this hill, but if I was setting down here more, we're going to set it, that's going to be hard to feel, set it down at more of an angle. Because you want that trap parallel to the ground, guys. You want him forced through that. That's one of my favorite things about 220s and this stabilizer system. When we catch a raccoon, this whole thing pulls out of the ground with them. It is pretty wild. You know, when I first started doing this, I thought, boy, I'm going to lose a lot of muskrat stretchers doing this. Now, once this trap fires, every single time, I won't say every single time, because there's never a never in trapping, and there's never an always in trapping. But I'd say 95% of the time, that raccoon still has this attached to him right above him. Or sometimes it's even still in the ground, which for the life of me, I still can't quite figure out how that's in the ground and he pulls the trap off of it, but that's beyond me. Now, when it comes to the staking system, I wish I could give credit to whoever showed this to me a few years ago. Stabilizers, other systems, when we stake them, when that raccoon expires, where's he at from where you staked it? Downhill, right? Every time when that raccoon expires, he's going to go to the lowest point, gravity takes over, and that's where he's going to be. With this long pogo, I'm going to pull him away from that trail. When I was using other systems that kept them in this trail, I was catching 1 or 2 raccoon a year, or not a year, but on the trail. And I kept thinking to myself, these trails are better than that. I should be catching more raccoons on these trails. And I really wish I could figure out who it was and remember. They said you got to pull them off. Because when that raccoon expires on the trail, he's leaving feces, he's leaving urine, he's leaving everything on that trail. Now picture the next raccoon the next day. He's just walking along, he's just really not paying attention to something, and all of a sudden that smell hits him. It's no different than if you're walking down the sidewalk, just kind of lollygagging along, someone's right here and honks. What are you going to do? Your senses go up, you're paying attention more, you're seeing better, you're hearing better, you're alert. You are alert now. That's exactly what's happening when that raccoon is going over a spot where a dead raccoon is laying. All of a sudden he's alert. Whoa, what's that smell? Something's not right. What's this square thing in front of me? And that's exactly how I see it, how I'm thinking they're seeing this. And it's proven itself. I've got spots where I'll hit 15, 17 coon in one trail because I'm pulling them off. And I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. Now that 5-foot pogo, right? Like why would you have a 5-foot pogo on the end of this? We are anchoring this way off to the side. I'm not going to get that one in as far. But now what happens? You make that catch. He flops. Now where does he land? You're 5-6 foot away from that trail. That trail's going to keep being open. It's still a highway running right down. And that's how you're going to catch coon after raccoon after raccoon in those trails. It's something I switched to here. I started doing that 4 or 5 years ago, and it drastically increased my 220 catches on dry land. But that's pretty much my system. That's my sets that I have. Any questions at all, please? Anybody? Yes, sir.
Do you do anything to cover your dog proofs if you know there's rain coming?
Do I do anything to cover my dog proofs if there's rain coming? No, sir, I do not. I'm glad you brought that up, actually. We'll go back over here to the dog proof, and I'll show you a little bit. Get that track put back on there. Normally I carry a 32-ounce plastic open container in my truck for bait. Definitely left that back in Iowa a few days ago. But so we're filling this thing. Yeah, that's not going to work.
Oh, no,
we're
sorry.
That thing completely full. When that thing is mounded with cat food, guys, so when it's that full, what does rain do when it hits something like cat food? It expands. Exactly. So all of a sudden, all this cat food just, I'll come up, flip out the top inch, not even an inch, quarter inch, half an inch, and we're dry cat food again. We're ready to roll. The only thing I've ever done to cover anything as far as this goes would be to take like a leaf or something that I find. If I can find a leaf, maybe I'll put a leaf at an angle over the top of it. But I really don't want anything over the top of this because I really feel that smell is going to ferment the air and pop up. And that's, you got tracker caps, the stuff that goes over the top. I won't say they don't work by any means. I've used them for a little bit, but I feel I had better results with that smell being able to get out into the air. Hope that answers your question. Anything else on my set so far? Yes, sir.
How many traps along a trail would you set?
Good question. Thank you for bringing that up. A typical trail like this, I'm setting at least 2. I will never, I use that word again, see? There's never a never. But I will almost always set 2. Very rarely will I set 1 trap. And the only time I may set 1 trap is if I'm standing on the shoulder of the road, and right here where the edge of this demo area is the fence, and I don't have room to put 2 in. That will be about the only time I ever go with just 1 set. And I've learned over the past, never put these too close together, because have you guys ever walked up to a raccoon and he's standing there like this? Right? We've all been there. I feel like he's not going anywhere. Which just goes to show you at the same time too, that raccoon got caught. What's his mental process? Is he thinking, ouch, I'm in pain? He's still hungry. You're still thinking about food. Oh, hey, let's try this one. Oh, wow, same result, who would have thought? But, any other question as far as my sets and how I'm using them? Yes, sir.
You said 5 traps in an area like this demo area. You use cat food in every single one of those traps.
If I set 5 traps in something the size of this demo area, do I use cat food in all of them? Yes. Yes, I will. That is the only bait that goes on my road line with me. I've experimented with a few things later on in the season with moderate success. I keep going back to this cat food. And, you know, hope it doesn't ruffle some feathers with some bait makers and such, but it's what works for me, guys. I can't sit here and say it's some trademark secret. Trust me, if there was, I could tell you there's some honey or something in that and tell you it's a special blend, but it's not. There's nothing there. It's just straight, dry, gourmet cat food. Matter of fact, I forgot that back in Iowa, so I had to run to Walmart and buy some of that too. So, and yeah, I spent $120 on all my bait last year, guys. Last year I had 1,052 coon. The year before that was 897. The year before that was 1,082. Dry cat food and dry land 220s. I mean, I can't say anything else about it. I mean, it's a simple process, guys. It really is. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Why would you use the 220 when you have these here?
Why would I use the
Seems so much
220?
easier.
For dispatch reasons. That dry 220, now I can capitalize on my school market. It's already dispatched. It's dry, fluffy, no blood at all whatsoever. It's ready to skin. It's already cooled down. If I was to skin it right now, if you guys have ever fleshed animals before, you want that raccoon fat cold, am I right? You know what happens when it gets warm? Yeah, you're slinging grease everywhere, you're eating some, it's a mess. Then you get salmonella, and I've been there twice, so I don't want to do that again. But anyway, yes sir.
How about colors in the dog proofs?
How about what?
The different colors.
Different
like
colors?
On a white or versus those.
I think white would be a little more appealing. I've never used white myself. It's going to appeal to the raccoons a lot. It's also going to appeal to Jim Bob driving down the road a little bit more, in my opinion, too. So it's one of those, what do you do? If you're on private ground, yeah, maybe white would be a better option. Mine are either all with this powder coated, or I still have most of my equipment is still the old metal they used to have that I have to use Formula 1 on, which is my different choice if I can. Anything else? Yes, sir.
Can you reset the dog proofs on the trail after you pull them?
Yep, I'll reset this. We all get that crop circle, that's why I call it, you get that big worn out circle. If there's a lot of duff in here, get all this grass, I'll just smooth out a false trail again, put it in, and we're good to go. I'll reset right on the same exact spot. There's another one over here, I thought. There's 2 over where?
You put your 220 flush to the ground or just put it up?
No, my 220, I am keeping about 2 inches off the ground if I can. That's the average, sometimes 3. Once in a while, it might be higher than that. All depends on the angle that I'm on. But if I'm on a fairly flat to slightly angled surface, I want this probably about there, probably about 2 inches off the ground. And as long as you have that top, that grass over the top of it, you're going to funnel them. They're forcing their head down. A lot of guys, if you're in open ground without that funneling, yeah, you probably want this 4 to 5 inches off the ground, in my opinion, if they're not having to force their head down. But that's, by forcing their head down, you have a lot more room for error as far as how you're forcing them, if that makes sense. I could set this, if I wanted to, I could probably set this flush with the ground as long as I funnel it well over the top. Another one over here? Yes.
I'm curious, throw out a percentage, what do you run in DPs to 220, 50-50?
As far as how many sets of dog proofs versus 220s am I running? I'm probably running about 70 to 75% dog proofs versus 220s. The only reason being is I'm trapping so close to houses and such. In Iowa, you have to be 200 yards away for 220s. And everything, probably all across the country, our rural areas are getting more developed. And it seems like every year when I'm scouting on my trap line, I crest a hill and, oh, there's a house here. There wasn't one last year. So that forces me into the dog proofs. If I could, I would run almost exclusively 220s just because I love the fact, it's dispatched when I get there. There's no big crop circle laying there. Just something I really, really prefer to use. Anybody else?
What about bait if you're around houses and cats?
Don't matter, I'll use cat food and I don't have an issue. Very, very rarely do I have an issue. Mostly because they're getting their cat food at home. They got a nice garage or front porch or something. The only time I'd ever change it up is when I do my animal damage control stuff for the summer and I'm sitting on your front porch. Then I'll change things up.
What do you use? Because I do nuisance control.
Anything sweet. Anything sweet. It won't prevent 100% cats, but cats aren't attracted to sweet smells as much as they are the meat or fishy or baits. So another one over here. Yes, sir.
Do you do anything to your triggers on your dog?
Do I do anything to my triggers and my dog proofs? Nothing. Nope, not a thing. I leave them completely stock. Yes, sir.
You like push-pull triggers or just?
No, I do not. Just for the reason that he was talking about with cats and any type of domestic animals. In my opinion, a push-pull trap, in my opinion, is all it is a coil spring with a tube over the top of it. You're going to catch anything that has a small enough foot to go down in there. By going strictly with a pull, I'm really limiting the amount of non-targets that I have to deal with. I'm going to limit primarily to raccoon, skunks, and possum because they have that dexterity that we do. Versus any type of domestic animal can sit there and they can hit the bottom of that trigger all day long with their paw and they're not going to set it off. Next, yes sir.
What about snares?
I do not run snares at all. I take that back. I do run snares if I'm coyote trapping on my road line. That is primarily, but for raccoons, I do not run any snares. Anybody else over here? Do I what?
Hunt deer.
Do I hunt deer? Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I live in Iowa. We got deer and raccoons, guys. That's what we do. Anybody else? You good with? Okay, so don't judge me. I got a notebook, so I want to make sure I did this right. Locations. Early season when I'm trapping locations, I'm focusing on one thing. What's every animal in the fall, their main priority? Food, right? Food? So my roads that I'm traveling down, I'm looking for corn on one side, timber on the other. This is no different than if you're on private ground going down the edge of a cornfield with timber. It's the same exact thing. Early season, I'm driving down that now. What am I looking for? And this is what took me a while to learn because you can't really teach this. You can't really demonstrate it. But when I drive down a road, a new road, I find the first thing that catches my eye. Generally, that's a giant oak tree. Or, wow, that telephone pole is right there on top of that hill. Or a big evergreen. This is exactly what these raccoons are looking for. They are going from landmark to landmark. That's how they travel. It's a system that I don't know if it's more of a security thing or if it's, they're just that intelligent. They know that turn left at the oak tree and there's corn over here. I really don't know. But especially in my area, if you're driving down the road, and for example, if you could see that cedar tree back there, if that was about 10 foot tall, and that was the only tree on that road, and you have timber on one side and corn on the other, there's going to be a raccoon trail there every time. Every time. And it's going to look exactly like what we're just showing here. Sometimes it's going to be even more distinct. Sometimes you've got a mud path, but it's never wide. People think, oh man, Let's get amazing raccoon trail. Look how wide that is. That's a 12-foot. No, you got deer. That's what that is. But that little trail that's about 4 inches wide, that's bare mud, that's where our raccoons are traveling. So early season, I'm hitting these high points, these low points. Every time a field comes down and gets a grass waterway to a culvert, if there's a culvert underneath your road, there's raccoons moving through it. There is. And in Iowa, we're lucky enough that they mark those with this nice little red like PVC pole. So you just drive down the road and hey, there's a culvert right here. Let's go check it out. And a lot of times, and that's another thing when I'll talk about this whole being lazy thing a little later. I can look down there and think, wow, I don't see anything. Well, you've got a grass cover, especially on dry years like we had last year. That grass cover just encloses everything. It encapsulates everything. Go down there, open up that canopy. Wow, guess what? You've got a funnel this big going through the grass as far as you can see. That's your raccoons. They're focusing on food. That's their number one priority. Mid-season, which in my opinion is the hardest time to track raccoon. It's cold now. We've got snow on the ground. They're not breeding. They're not coming out of the dens very often. This is the time where you can kind of catch a few raccoons going to corn if you don't have deep snow yet. They're kind of starting to get towards the breeding, and it's the most difficult time, in my opinion, to catch these things. Most of the time, even this year, like I focused on deer hunting. Let's start finishing some fur because I just had all of November, which I think I hit 1,000 by deer season, I think. So I was just like, you know what? Let's focus on finishing fur. It is so difficult that mid-season, but it can be done. Late season is phenomenal if you know what to look for. So those locations I was talking about, the corn to timber, those are done. Those are gone. If you're setting on them at this point, you're almost wasting your time. Those boars are looking for females. Why? I don't know. It's too dang cold. But they are searching. And they're going from timber to timber looking for sows. Now, so we've just transitioned from corn to timber. And those timber to timber locations are good year round. I'll set them early season as well. But now is the time when it's primarily those locations that are producing. I will drive 5 miles to find one of these. A timber to timber location, and you'll even see it in the snow. And it's just like a trigger when this happens, and you've got to time this right. You've got to hit it almost perfectly, in my opinion. You can drive down the road and there's a culvert here. We got big timber with den trees on both sides, fresh snow on the ground, not a trail in sight. Man, that's rough. Where are they at? Where are they moving? Come by the next day, and it's just a beaten path through that snow, where it looks like 15, 20 coons just had a parade right up to the next den tree. And it's not just den trees too. You've got cattle lots, old abandoned buildings. Those are great places. But for me, on the road line, I am focusing primarily on that timber to timber late season. I'm still using a lot of dog proofs. They're not as effective as boxes. That's something that's kind of a new concept to me actually here this last year. I started using a little more boxes, baited with fish and such. Had success with that, and I'm going to grow on that because that's what we're doing. We're always learning, we're always improving, we're always getting better, right? But, that's my train of thought. So we're focused in late season on denning locations. Yeah, I think that's about it for locations. Any other questions? Go for it.
Back to the traps, would you consider going with a smaller trap in a 220? If you're
I
staying
know a lot of
long?
people have good success with 220s. The question was, why would I consider using anything but a 220? I know a lot of people like 160s. I've never really messed with them a lot, but I do know a lot of people like them. But I just prefer. I still catch that bobcat and the fox on my line, and I feel it'll just be a lot better with the 220, a little more power behind it. Anybody?
How
Yes.
many miles you cover in one day, and do you have to check by Iowa law? Do you trap every day, every 24 hours?
Yes, in Iowa. How often do we have to check in Iowa, and how much am I covering? We have to check every 24 hours in Iowa. My first route this year is 110 miles round trip. Anybody over here? This way? Yes, sir.
not much an amateur on catching food, so bait, you say, cat food can't go wrong. If I've got some meat scraps or chicken skin on the or fish or chicken, am I wasting my time with that?
In my opinion, I would look towards the cat food more. Once you get more into the meatier basis, they'll catch raccoon, I'm not saying they won't, but you're gonna attract every possum in the neighborhood. You're gonna catch skunks, which, in my opinion, I'd rather catch skunks right now than anything because they are the most valuable fur that there is. Between everything you harvest off them, your wife might hate you for the next week, but they're the best fur you can catch, in my opinion. Anybody else? Yeah.
You talk about boxes, PlayStation, you talking 220 boxes?
Yes, sir. Yes, 220 boxes. That's something that's kind of new to me yet, but I'm definitely running with it. It seems to work pretty well. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Like, how many traps do you run?
110 miles. Last year I had 275 stops with, no, 225 stops with like 315 traps, something like that.
Like 15.
315 traps set across the 225, something like that. I try to keep track of it the best I can, but after a while it's just write it down, and then just when I go to pull it, then I pull the traps. I'm trying to get away from counting everything at the end of the day, like how many traps did I put out? Oh man, that sucks. Like that's gonna be a long day tomorrow. So anything else on that? Yes, sir.
I saw where you were catching red fox in KP. How
Yes.
did that happen? By accident? Or?
Yes, how did I catch red foxes and dog proofs? That's why I wish they changed these dog resistant guys. That's not dog proof. And a lot of people I really wish they would change that, honestly. Because my opinion, what happened, they got their foot down inside of here, and they got their claw, and just hit that trigger just ever so right. I caught 1 or 2 last year. I caught 4 the year before, and like 1 or 2 the year before that. So I'm not gonna say it's common, but it's not a dog proof, guys. So anyone else? Yes, sir. Am I using any lure during mating season? Good question. So I experimented with that last year. I took just my straight cat food in the trap, and on my next trap, I put Boar's Delight over the top of it. Figured I'm gonna try it. I heard a lot about it. I can't really say that it did better than the straight cat food. I want to say it was like a 55 to 45% catch ratio. It was pretty equal, and I'm not even sure which one was more, to be honest with you. But it wasn't as much as I thought it was. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
If you're wanting to catch a skunk in it, would you do anything different?
If I was wanting to catch a skunk, would I do anything different? No. I caught 65 skunks last year just using these, and as well as the 220s. I'd say I probably caught 15 or 20 of the 220s and probably 40 some of the dog proofs. Any questions? Yes, sir. What's my best dispatch method? I prefer a 177 air rifle, 1,200 feet per second. Eliminates all the blood, very quick, humane dispatch, no sound. It's very effective. I really like it. Anybody else? Yeah.
With your 220 boxes, are you experiencing any refusals? Danner with that? I experience that a lot.
Yeah. Have I experienced any refusals with 220 boxes? I have. Very much so. And that's something I'm growing on and learning as much as I can about. So I've got a few things I gotta modify a little bit. I'm thinking about setting the trap a little bit deeper in the box. It seems like I had a bunch try to reach through. And it's things like that. Anybody else? Okay, we got about 15 minutes here. I'm gonna go ahead and talk to you. This is more of the long line of what it takes to long line. So in my opinion, there are 4 things. If you had asked me about 3 months ago, I'd have said 3 things, but there's 4 things that are required for you to long road line. And I was told to make sure I share this one as a very understanding wife. Because she's taking care of the kids a lot while I'm out stumbling around in ditches. So that is priority number 1. Make sure she knows that. Priority number 1. Second, you've got to have the equipment to be able to do this. And everyone thinks equipment, well, yeah, I've got, Grandpa gave me 300 traps, I'm good. That's not just it, guys. You go out and you catch 100 tuna today, you come back to the house like, man, that's awesome. Wow, now what? What am I going to do with these things? I'm tired. I don't want to touch them. You know, I actually made beers last night. I'm ready for bed now. Now I got to go and skin these things. You've got to be prepared for that. You've got to have the freezer space to store these things. And I'll tell you what, if you're putting them in the carcass in the freezer, you're not fitting very many in there. You are not fitting many in there. So you've almost got to get them skinned. And I'm fortunate enough, I have a good buddy of mine that doesn't know any better, that I'm able to have him skin all my stuff for me. But there's so much more than just traps as far as equipment goes. You've got to have the setup. This isn't something that you're probably going to do, you know, set up a gambrel system in the oak tree out front. You've got to have a setup to be able to handle and move that volume of stuff. A lot of people don't realize, yeah, skinned all these animals, now you got to mount the carcasses. Well, once again, your wife's going to be mad at you if that's laying out front. You know, you've got to factor all these little things in. Second or thirdly, because you know, I have a wife that is understanding, so now we're on the third instead of number 2. Do your homework. And this, almost like number 1, is very, very important. I could not come to your neck of the woods without seeing it and catch 1,000 raccoons, even if the population was there. I don't know the ground. I've never been there. I'm fortunate enough, I've been trapping some of these areas for pushing 20 years now. I know the ins and the outs of everything. I know where these trails are going to be from experience and just learning as I go. Every year I'm expanding my line. So if you picture a giant circle, next year I'm going to expand out to here. Next year out to here. I'm always expanding it and finding new areas. And by the 5th year of trapping an area, I can sit here and close my eyes and think, all right, as soon as I leave my house, I'm going to turn right. I'm going to put 2 dog proofs down here by that turn sign off the highway. I'm going to go about 60 yards right here where that yellow-black sign is going up the hill. That's going to be corn this year, so that's going to be a good spot. I can go through these in my head because I've done this year after year after year, and you learn where those trails are going to be and exactly how to set up on them. I could think of, all right, yeah, location number 124 after I go through this turn. Yeah, that grass is always tall. That mower never mows that area. That's going to be good 220 locations because they never mow it. And I'm able to remember that stuff. And I don't have a good memory, guys. Ask my wife. I do not have a good memory. But those trails, after repetition, you learn exactly where these things are. And the last one that I'm going to talk to you about is the drive. And this is kind of my trademark on YouTube, the drive, the willpower to push yourself beyond what you think is possible to get the numbers that you want. I set a goal of 1,000 coons. It took me about 5 years to get it. My first year I set it, I think that was the year I caught 283. No, maybe that's 512. But anyway, far from. But you know what? I learned a lot. I learned and I grew. Next year, I had more equipment. I did more homework. And that was my 714 year. And you keep growing and you keep learning and improving. And the amount you want to push yourself will determine your season. How many of you have done this? You've pulled up next to, say, a dog-proof trap or 220. You look down in the ditch from your side-by-side of your truck and it's laying knocked over, empty. And how many of you said this? I'll get it tomorrow. Come on, let's see them. Oh, come on, there's more in here. I know there is. I've done it. I still do it. I still do it. I'm 100 times better at it now than I was 5 years ago. Because if that trap's knocked over, it's empty, it's set off, it's not catching fur. That is a missed opportunity at a raccoon. So regardless, every single day, you've got to get up, look down in that ditch, you're tired, your legs hurt, you look at it and go, okay, and you go down there and you set that trap again. And I'll tell you what, the next day when you come down there and you've got a nice 15, 20 pound raccoon sitting there, you're going to thank yourself for doing it because that was a missed opportunity. And that is extremely important. And I think that is what separates many people from a lot higher level than where they want to be. So that's pretty much what I got. Any questions on this last part? Yes, sir.
Do you pelt them all regardless of size?
Do I skin them all regardless
Yeah,
of size?
regardless of size.
Good question. If they're in my dog proofs, I will let them go. If they're below what I consider a 1X, if they're a 1XL or lower, I'll let them go. 2X and up, I'm keeping. If I catch them in a conibear, everything comes home with me. I've learned using my pellet rifle, if they're in a dog proof, I can position that trap. If they're caught in it, I can position them up like this with the springs, and all it takes is the butt of that gun. 5 pounds of pressure is enough, they're gone and running. And they give you a nice little finger on their way out, I think. So. Anything up? Yes. How many followers do I have on YouTube? Yes, I am monetized and about 6,400. Any other questions regarding this, guys? Speak up. Yes, sir.
How do you get rid of all your coons?
How do I get rid of them all? All the carcasses?
No, do you sell them the fur?
Oh, do I sell? I've got several markets. A couple more leads this year. I won't go into too much detail on it because it's kind of one of those things that you don't want to share too much of. But there's a lot of stuff out here, guys. And one thing I want people to focus on, this isn't just fur. There are skulls. Last year I was selling hearts. I was selling testicles. Don't ask. I have no idea why. The Balcons, claws. This year I've got a market for spinal columns. It is crazy, guys. There are markets out here for this random, crazy stuff. But you know what? With everything said and done, I averaged just under $11 on my raccoon last year. I love to trap. I'm going to do it till I can't, and I'm okay with that. I mean, yeah, and personally, I don't want to see $30 raccoon again, because I'm going to have so many people come out of the woodwork, both people that are better trappers than me, and you're going to get that Jim Bob goes out with his buddies drinking on a Friday night, checking every single ditch and culvert they can. I've had carcasses skinned in my footholds before. I mean, it gets pretty bad, but you keep that. If I could average $15 for a finished coon, that would be perfect, in my opinion. A lot of guys disagree with that, and they're right to their opinion as well. But any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So that means you take your coon, you skin it, and you preserve everything you got on the meat?
Yes, am I skinning it and preserving everything? Yes. Like I said, my skinner doesn't know any better. I own them.
So that same night, when you're going home, you preserve carcass, the animal skin, or do you do that?
Everything gets processed
That night?
fresh. Yes. My skinner, he's a godsend. Let's just say that. But yeah, he's got a system where he can get that on a skinning machine. We get the fur off of it. He can gut it right there on the spot, take the glands and everything else, whatever I'm taking off. We've got separate piles. While he's doing that, I'll come back out to the shop a couple times. I've got a system that goes back to the equipment. I've got a shelf set up with saran wrap where I can pull saran wrap out, put a skull in it, wrap it up, cut it, put it in a bin. Take that bin to my skull freezer. My skull freezer is going to have dividers, coyote, raccoon, mink, muskrat. It's all a system, and it all plays in. Anybody else? Yes, sir. How many traps do I get stolen? I factor in 10% every year, but recently it's a lot lower than that. It's probably around 3 to 5%, and that's the thing too. You can't let that get in your head. When you come up to a trap and it's clear you caught something and it's gone, how many times have you been like, screw this, I'm done, pull everything, I'm done, this is ridiculous. Now your head's not in the game. And if you want to catch numbers and push through it, you've got to just look at that, make sure it's gone. Okay, trap's gone, cross it off my GPS, let's go. We got stuff to do. You've got to keep your head in the game when you're doing this.
How often does the animal take the trap?
I'm sorry?
How often does an animal take the trap?
I don't think very often. I've had, I think twice in the last 3 years, I have a feeling that my anchoring system didn't work out well. Anybody else? Anything, guys? We got about another 6-7 minutes. 2 minutes? Okay, 2 minutes. Sorry, I'm on a roll here.
Over here.
Yes, sir.
You say you got a market for the skull.
Yes.
Now, do they do a price doc for the dispatch hole
Do I get dogs for my dispatch scope? Those skulls I'm not selling. It is primarily my 220 skulls that I'm using. That being said, this year I want to get better at finding, not all the time, but a little bit better dispatch method to preserve that skull. That first week when I'm hitting 75, 80 raccoons a day, yeah, it's not going to happen. I need to get dispatch that coon and move on. But when I start slowing down to 30s and 40s, okay, we got a little more time in the day. Let's figure something else out. So I think we're about out of time here, guys. Any last question? Yeah, bud. Do I have any guns? Yes, I do. And here, you got a dog proof too. Anything else? Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time. Enjoy the convention, guys. This is an amazing setup. This is probably the best demo area I've ever seen. And I've seen a few of them, so thank you, guys.